Hey everyone. Uh, I don't do a whole lot of content, but this is something that I wanted to add into one of the videos I have on YouTube. This is WarbeartechGaming at the RWar1. Oh, jeez, at the RWar1 on YouTube. And if you want to see this video and kind of watch it in its entirety, it's only a minute long, but I'm going to go over kind of what I saw, what happened, and kind of just my thoughts on it in general, and just provide some commentary there. So this is on Hawthorne Boulevard. If you're familiar with California, it's a pretty large and busy street in Southern California. And as I was driving down, I was with my girlfriend at the time. Um, we were basically coming back from somewhere, and I had noticed this all occur. And it basically starts off with just any other general kind of just driving. As you can see, nothing special is happening. Um, but once we get a little bit further in, kind of right as we pass under this bridge, you'll see here in a second, right about here. Um, I know right about here, I notice that a car is kind of veering over a little bit, and I didn't really think much of it, but I noticed that they were doing it in a manner that was a little bit faster than somebody would normally get over, and they didn't have their blinker on. So I kind of just started keeping an eye on them at this point. Just, naturally driving, being a bit defensive and kind of just driving through whatever. And then this is kind of what that looked like. And just imagine I'm watching this through both of my side mirrors, essentially. Um, and what I see is, okay, this guy's getting over. Awesome. So right there, I kind of figure, okay, there's, I think, like a dealership or a couple other things off to the right here. And I kind of thought that he was pulling in, maybe, I don't know, maybe he's pulling in a little bit, coming in hot type stuff to the, wherever he was going, kind of was in a rush or whatever the case was. So still keeping an eye on him. And this was now, since he was actually behind me, more so to see, to make sure essentially that, it was just that and nothing else happened. Well, of course, in case in point, something happened. So here it is. So I see him get over, and I'm like, okay, this is a little bit weird. And then right there is where I'm looking in my right side. I remember this very vividly. I remember looking in my right side mirror because I wanted to see if he was kind of going into here. But the thing is, when he was getting over, I mean, when I say, obviously, like, the kind of thought process, as I was driving down this little area right here, the thought process was, all right, he's coming in real hot to be driving into this kind of little area where there's, like, a restaurant, and, oh, there's the dealership. There's, like, a dealership or mechanic shop right here or something. And I'm over here thinking, okay, that's a little weird, so I'm going to keep an eye on this because, of course, in case anything happens, I mean, well, who knows what my thought process would be at that point, but I just wanted to make sure kind of, I guess, nothing was going to happen or see what was going to happen because something about that didn't feel right. Simply just didn't feel right as we were driving. The speeds, behavior, and everything about this was wrong in terms of this guy getting over and it being assumed to have been a normal lane change. Just nothing was right about it. And that's why I kind of kept an eye on it. Just more of the defensive driving thing. I wanted to make sure nothing happened naturally. Well, we see this. Now, this in and of itself, this is kind of why I'm pausing it here. This in and of itself was enough to be like, oh man, this is bad. Somebody needs to at least like hop out, call 911, let me go ahead and do that. So at this point, I'm kind of like, all right, I've got to get a hold of somebody. Maybe not, at this point, maybe not stop, but maybe just get a hold, say, hey, maybe the girlfriend at the time, have her call and say, hey, there's an accident going northbound on Hawthorne or eastbound rather, or whatever it is. Anyways, etc. And it looks like they hit a pole. Now, what happened immediately after this is essentially what changed my thought process from going like that to now I don't know what I'm about to. Now I don't know what's about to kind of play out. I guess to lightly put it. And this is what I mean, and this is kind of where this is where those thoughts start coming in.
Oh shit.
So right there. So right there alone, I see I'm still kind of you know, in the midst of everything. You know, pausing the video seems a little bit um there's some delays in it, but in the midst of this 3 to 5 seconds of this all of this happening, I see the pole uh essentially what I thought, or kind of what I assumed at the time, impale this SUV and ultimately overturn it. Now you can see over here that this is actually going to affect a lot more than just this driver and this the occupants of this car, where this turned out to be a singular driver. I'm fairly sure this was a singular driver only, because only one person got out and he wasn't like concerned about anybody else in the car, so I'm assuming that's singular driver. But this ended up being an actual family, or at least that of 2 adults and 2 to 3 children. I forget how many. It was either 4 to 5 folks in this car, which heartbreaking just to kind of relive that and talk through it, to be honest. But so I see this happen. I'm like, okay, now I already know that my thought process is changing from, I'm not going to just call 911 or emergency services or whatever. I should probably get out and maybe see if anybody needs help. And, you know, there's a lot of things happening all at once. So then this kind of happened.
Look at the car, baby. What the
So
I gotta go help.
yeah.
right at that point, the thing was, I wasn't watching this part necessarily when I say kind of, hey, I gotta go help. My thought was, the car's already being uplifted. If it overturns, if it flips on its side, if it does anything other than staying right where it's at, that could either A, lead to way more injury in the car and somebody's really, really going to need help, or two, if it stays uplifted like this, if nobody can help, there's got to be, you know, I mean, when I say if nobody can help in terms of like physically help, you know, there's a line lifting this up at this point, a live line lifting up the car. You know, if no one can help, at least maybe we can direct the occupants on how to proceed. Now, you won't be able to see the rest of this, so I'll just talk through it. We'll kind of finish out the video here. But the or the SUV rather, does end up on its side. So
Park over there.
I just got all that on film too.
I park and I'm kind of just like, I don't know what to do. So I pull over and I hop out, and there's nothing else to really see here other than just the back end of this. But what ends up happening is I get out,
Where's my phone?
I run, and I call. Well, I needed my phone first and foremost. I didn't care about filming the scene. That I don't have that. That was never a part of this, and you know, I never feel that it's appropriate to do so. However, I did need my phone to call emergency services, so I was kind of frantic in finding that. I ran out, got him on the phone, and then as I was running up, I was about 150 meters away. Other folks were running up too, and I saw them on the phone as well. By the time I got an operator on the line, they told me that there were plenty of reports coming in, so I didn't necessarily continue with the call. They kind of just said, you know, emergency services are on their way. So I was like, okay, cool. Everybody else that was there, I'm assuming they were on their phones, you know, talking to emergency services, whoever, kind of just trying to figure out in their own realm versus what they saw what to do. And what I noticed was, in the midst of, you know, after this point where I've parked and I've kind of jumped out of the car, at some point the car kind of, I don't think it fell necessarily, but it kind of started resting down because it was, you know, the tension was being pulled on just one line, and it's a SUV weight pulling on that line. Even, you know, thick copper wire, you know, it's probably going to flex at least. But it pulled down and it eventually rested on its side against the ground. Now the problem with that was, at that point, it was impossible to tell whether the line was, you know, an electrical line, a data line, or whatever. I guess there's a few different types of lines that could exist for those overhead lines like that, in that some of them aren't necessarily electrical, but in any case, you know, I myself, and you know, I can't imagine other folks kind of, well, I shouldn't say that, I can't speak for anybody else, but I myself did not have any idea of what kind of line it was, and figured at that point from the outside would be better for some direction to the occupants on how to get out, because I kept shouting and other people were shouting like, hey, there's a live line through here, or through the car, like, or some sort of wire through the car. You know, it's hard to kind of it's hard to dictate what to do at that point. So without going hands-on to potential electrical hazards and stuff, uh, folks decided and myself decided to kind of collectively guide them out of the car without actually approaching it too closely. I think there was a couple, or I think there was one person that kind of got a little bit closer and got a better view of it. I don't remember exactly how that kind of went down, but I was on essentially the street. I was in the street between the sidewalk and the car at that point, yelling kind of what I could see and how to direct. And out emerges, multiple occupants, two of which or three of which, a couple of which at least, were children, and that alone just, I don't know, it was rough. It was rough. The part that becomes scary about that is that the scene could have been a lot different. And I think anything, everything, whatever, that it wasn't any different. That was that alone, everything that happened there was a worst case scenario. And because of that, I can't say that what happened was the best case scenario because everything about this was bad. But if we are going to say something like that, this was the best case of the worst case scenario occurring. Like, I hope that none of the folks are injured, like mentally, more so than I could see, like physically. I think physically, most, I don't want to say anything for certain, but it seemed as though, in terms of what I do know about first responder, and not to sound too cliche, being a veteran, I'm familiar with certain types of wounds and how to kind of assess certain things. There was no bleeding, there was no airway restrictions. Everyone was conscious, everyone was talking and cognizant while they were likely in shock or just, who knows what the thought was there. It didn't immediately seem there was any life-threatening injuries, and by the time any kind of real assessment would have been done, I mean, good on the emergency services that responded, because they were there very fast. They were there very fast. I would say within 5 minutes. So thankfully that occurred as well, to where professionals were on scene as soon as they could be. But at the end of the day, they did arrive, and we kind of dispersed. The police kind of took over, and EMS took over. And the last thing that I was able to do, thankfully, was talk to one of the male adult occupants of the vehicles, or one of the adult occupants of the vehicles, which was the male, and the female was with the kids. And I explained to him, like, hey, I do have this all on camera. I'm not entirely sure what the nature of the video is going to look like, but do you have any information you're willing to provide to me so I can kind of correspond and provide that to you? I don't know if you can give that to insurance or legal whatever purposes, but more than happy to do that. So I did, and or so I should say, so he gave me the he gave me the email, and I provided him the video, and that was kind of the end of the story there. I don't really know exactly what came of it, although I will say that I can hope that the best came out of it for all parties involved. Now, focusing on kind of the white car, we'll kind of backtrace a little bit. The white car right here. This is just the epitome of the dangers of driving while you're tired. As I was approaching the scene, the driver of this vehicle was conscious, no airway restrictions, nothing that I could see or hear that was visibly, or that was audibly or visibly where he was in pain or injured, and or that he was confused or delirious or anything like that. So I definitely took that into account, although I was more concerned about the vehicle that was overturned. The white car's airbags deployed, and since his behavior, as I had mentioned just a minute ago, seemed pretty normal, other than probably being super scared and not knowing what happened. I asked him if he was okay. He said yes, and then I said what happened, and he said I fell asleep. Now, I won't say for certain whether that's what happened or not. I can only kind of allegedly say that, of course, from my experience and kind of how I went through everything that I went through in this. But what I will say is that if it was a fatigue or sleep that caused this accident, that this is a very, very unfortunate and clear cut example of why that's a dangerous, dangerous combination. In that sleeping, or being tired and driving, is akin, some say, I don't know if it's experts or I don't know if this is factual in a general sense, but it's generalized to be akin to drunk driving. In that, I mean, if you're asleep, you lose control of your faculties, you lose control of your motor skills, and you don't, just like being hammered, you don't necessarily have full capacity of your motor skills or your faculties. And I guess that's where the correlation gets drawn. And yeah, just scary. And I've been in plenty of scenarios where I've been really tired behind the wheel. I'm guilty of the same. To very, very fortunate ends where no, there was no accident. I just happened to wake up still on the road. Uh, Probably a split second later. But the fact that I was essentially unconscious for even a split second while operating a motor vehicle is just terrifying. And this alone compounds that, especially those words saying, I must have fell asleep when I was at the wheel, whatever he had kind of said specifically, but it was along the lines of I fell asleep or I was tired. So yeah, again, I really do wish the best for all of these folks, and I hope this gives some insight to this video. I don't necessarily have too much experience with content creation or anything like that, or a huge following. This garnered a huge amount of visibility, at least in my realm, to where it's at about 15,000 views. And I'd imagine I would probably want some more commentary on this, just in a general sense, just if it was available. So I'd like to provide that. So extra stuff there. Again, if I can't imagine, it's impossible to say if anyone has any additional detail on this that ever sees this, or whatever the case is. But I'm open for commenting on it or whatever the case is. But let me know, and like and follow. I guess I'll hit y'all with the normal stuff. I have Twitch and YouTube at WarbeartechGaming. I'm Warbear, and yeah, I appreciate all the time, but just be careful out there. Driving's crazy, especially California, huge population. There's lots of folks on the road, which compounds the unpredictability of pretty much anything. And cost of living is going up. People are working more. Fatigue is gonna, the onset of fatigue's probably there. I can attest to that myself. I can't say that I have the best sleeping habits or anything like that, which is also root cause, all that good stuff. But yeah, I appreciate everyone's time, and hopefully this gives some insight. And yeah, take care.